Well, Pastor Jake, it is great to be able to speak with you today. Tell me a little bit about the church that you pastor.
So I'm one of the ministers at Grace Presbyterian Church, and we're located in the Beltline neighborhood of Calgary. Just we're surrounded by neighbors um, of many different ethnicities and ages and different ideas about what the church should be. And so our vision is transforming lives through God's grace, and so we're really uh, trying to live that out in engaging with our neighbors and helping our congregation both share God's story in our neighborhood and to be aware of where God's story is leading us into our neighborhood as well.
Yeah, wonderful. Now, you obviously are quite aware of the unmarked graves that have been found in various residential schools. We've been talking as a church a little bit about this, and I understand that just this last week, your church was actually vandalized with the red paint across the doors. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so on the evening of, well, actually early morning of Canada Day, our church had two of its front doors splattered with red paint.
How
With the
did you find
history,
out? How, did someone phone you, or did you drive by, or
actually, I found out someone posted a picture on Twitter.
when you saw that and you knew it was your church, you recognized the doors of your church? What emotions went through you?
At first, it was like just the question of why. Then I just had to kind of sit with that question for a bit. And the Presbyterian Church has in Canada has done a bunch of work to in truth and reconciliation, and so we've released all of our records. We've donated to funds and made some reparations.
So I don't know
Um,
the history of the Presbyterian Church and residential schools. Did the Presbyterian Church, was it one of those churches that ran residential schools, and how many?
the Presbyterian Church ran 11 schools up to 1925. And then in the church union movement, where the United Church of Canada was formed, many of those schools were transferred over to the United Church, but the Presbyterian Church ran two schools um, and up until 1969. And so after that sort of question of why, it was reflecting a little bit on that history and recognizing that with this paint, that it signified something more than just red paint. I recognized we could be angry about red paint and we could rush to kind of quickly scrub it away, but maybe we just needed to sit with the red
Okay,
paint for a
so that
while.
would have been my reaction. I mean, if we had red paint and vandalized and graffitied across our church, I think the first thing I'd be out there with a pressure washer with the different solutions. I'd get that cleaned up. I try to erase it right away. That is not what you did. You had a completely different, somewhat in my mind, irrational kind of irrational kindness sort of reaction. Tell us what your reaction ended up being.
We talked through this, and really what we decided was, let's leave the paint at least until July 8th, so for a week, um, and perhaps we'll go beyond that, just as a way of saying, can we recognize the pain, the grief, the lament that this paint on our doors represents, and so um,
Now, the
it's
Calgary police are actually investigating this as a hate crime. Again, in an act of illogical kindness, you actually pushed back and said you didn't think it was a hate crime. Explain how you came to that conclusion.
this was just, I mean, this expresses pain and grief and lament, and it is a part of our history, like it's a part of our collective story. And so um, instead of just trying to kind of scrub that away or whitewash it, like a part of truth and reconciliation is saying truth. And so just in sitting with the paint, like sitting on the front steps of our church, um, it's powerful to sit with that. And so almost like a, a prayer of confession in some ways, and just confessing, yeah, this is a part of who we are. And so to move forward from that, can we both sit with the voices of, pain and lament and grief that this has caused, and also, enter into conversations that may not be easy conversations, but that are good conversations, and a way forward.
You know what? When I read the article and saw your response, I was taken aback. I was a bit shocked. It spoke of character to me, character for you as a pastor, your team, your church, that you would allow that red paint to be on those doors for a week or more, because you cared so much. You cared more about the people who were violated and hurt and were hurting than you did your own reputation or building, or and it just spoke of such character. And one of the things we're studying today is that the character is illogical kindness. And I just think that, this irrational, illogical kindness is what you modeled. And I just really respect that. And you've inspired me today. And I want to thank you for sharing your story and for modeling Christ in such a powerful way there in Calgary.
Yeah, thanks, Pastor Todd. It's been really interesting. And, my hope and my prayer in all of this is that, stories of sort of this illogical kindness, and stories of character and compassion, um, become more mainstream and not the outliers. The story has actually started something that's much bigger, and now this kind of good but challenging work really begins. And so, to say that we want to be in conversation with the community, we now have to live into that, and find ways to do that. And so it's good, and I'm excited about that and where this may lead, Grace.
I love the fact that your sign says Grace Presbyterian, but it's not just on your sign, it's in your hearts. And thanks for modeling that grace with such character for us today. God bless you.
Yeah, thank you. God bless all of you as well. It's great to be with you.